Folks, welcome back to another episode of Coffee, Tea, and Crime. Today we're going to look at Mayhem in Maine. Well, folks, as the title implies, we're going to be in the great state of Maine. I didn't know they had such things happen up in Maine. This is a brief but very violent crime spree the suspect's going to go on. Now, the catalyst for all this is going to be a young lady that should have been old enough to know not to play such games. The suspect in this event, he was seeing this young lady. She was, I think, 22 at the time. Now, she had a boyfriend, but she was seeing this fella too. And this fella had a bad record. He was a bad man. And evidently she must have been attracted to that. This young lady's friend would later say that she didn't want to cut loose of her real boyfriend because evidently he was supporting her in some way or another, supporting her kids. But she sure should have left this suspect alone. I'm not saying the misery that came from the suspect is her fault. She didn't make him do it or tell him to do it, but she certainly laid the groundwork to get him fired up. You can decide for yourself, or maybe check out the resource material that I've got listed, because I can tell you the appellate courts of Maine certainly don't think much of her just by the way they wrote part of their decisions. Now, this appellate court information, some of it came from the lawsuit filed by this little girl and her family in a civil suit against the Maine State Police, and then other court materials from the appeals filed by the suspect after he pled guilty. It's June 30th, 2015. Now, the suspect is spending the night with this young lady. She evidently has an apartment or something down in Bangor, Maine. Now, 8 days later, she called the Bangor Police Department. She wanted to report she was being harassed and threatened by her ex-boyfriend, who was the suspect, is the suspect. My goodness, 8 days can change everything. Now, the police department there, one of the officers calls the phone number for the suspect, tells him to stop harassing the young lady, that she's called the police and complained, and he better stop what he's doing, and he better not bother her anymore. Now, on July 12th, according to the Maine Supreme Court, that our little victim, and I use that term very lightly for her, wanted to spend her life with the suspect. The Maine Supreme Court goes on to say that the little girl, we'll call her Brittany, she was involved in a romantic relationship with the suspect, and they were regularly intimate. It was also on this day that she sent a text message to him saying that she wanted to have a baby with him. Now, that's just a week or so after she's called the police on him. Now, July 14th, 2015, she goes and she's going to hang out at her friend's house, one of her BFFs. Now, about 5 p.m., she sends a text message to the suspect. Says she's probably going to come see him tonight. Now, about an hour later, she sends him another text and says she loves him. Then, about half an hour after that, she sent a text message to her real boyfriend, the official boyfriend, telling him that, don't worry, she was not going to go visit the suspect that night. However, she already had plans to meet him. So she leaves her friend's house and she goes and meets the suspect in Orono, Maine. The whole time she's driving to meet him, she's on the phone with him. Now later on, she would tell the Maine State Police that when she met him there at the IGA store, she told him that she had to go to the hospital. She had a kidney infection, and that he offered to give her a ride. So she got in the car with him. But instead of taking her to the hospital there in Lincoln, Maine, he drove her off to the woods, down some gravel road near Benedicta, Maine, which is where this little girl, Brittany, that's where her folks lived. Supposedly he attacked her, choked her, and sexually assaulted her. He then drove her to another location, tied her hands up behind her back with window blind cords, and sexually assaulted her. Then the suspect dropped her back off at her car. Now, the interesting part of this story so far is when she's telling the state police this hard story of being kidnapped and tied up with window blind cords and being sexually assaulted, she failed to mention that after he brought her back to her car, she followed him to a Verizon store in Bangor, Maine. Now, they only stayed in there about 15 minutes. They left. Well, within 10 minutes of them parting company, she sent him a text message that said she loved him. Now, that's kind of strange, isn't it? Now, she didn't mention that to the state police either, while she's filing this complaint about being kidnapped and sexually assaulted. And the phone records would show that she called him multiple times that within a 12-hour period. Now, the next day, she called him some more, multiple times. Well, then she goes to the Major Crimes Bureau of the State Police in Maine. This is right after she's been trying to talk to, or actually did talk to, the suspect. Now, her best friend goes with her. Now, she didn't do anything the state police had asked her to do when she filed her complaint, which was write down what happened during this kidnapping and sexual assault and bring the clothes you were wearing. But when she gets there, she goes on and does the written statement. And then the detectives, they talk to this young lady's best friend here. Well, the best friend said, I don't believe what my friend is saying. That she didn't believe her best friend. She said that Brittany was a pathological liar in regards to this alleged assault by the suspect. And she thinks that the reason she's lying is because her current boyfriend would leave her if he found out that little Brittany was having consensual relations with the suspect. And the BFF, she filled in the two investigators about all Brittany's little scandalous activities with the suspect. She said that right before they had come to the trooper barracks, that little Brittany had sent a text message to the suspect, said she loved him. Told him she loved him over the phone too while she was talking to him. State police took statements from the real boyfriend and also from another female who was also a friend, a BFF of our alleged victim. And the boyfriend said he doubted her story. And then this BFF, number 2, she was highly skeptical of the story being told by little Brittany. She also said it was not unusual for little Brittany to take off and be gone all night with the suspect. Now, a little after 8 o'clock on July the 16th, so this is after the BFF number 2 and the boyfriend have given statements. State police investigators get a call, and they're told that there's a barn on fire in Benedicta, and it sits right behind the house and on the property of the little Brittany girl's folks, her parents. Now, it wasn't too long after that, the little Brittany's father had called her and said that the barn was on fire at her mother's house. Now, little Brittany, she rides up towards her mama's house with her real boyfriend, the official boyfriend. And they drive up and they get to mama's house in Benedicta, and they're hanging out there. Now, Brittany, she calls the investigators, the state police, and tells them about the fire. Now, the state police, they put out a stop and hold on the suspect. Give her information on him and what vehicle he may be driving. Now, the fire department on the scene with the barn, when the state police investigators get there, they tell them that this fire is suspicious. Looks like it could be arson. Well, state police are rightly thinking, well, this is going to have to be the suspect. He's done got mad. He's mad at everybody. Now, the next day, little Brittany, she calls state police, wants to have a policeman or two hang out by the house because she's worried. She's worried the suspect's going to come back. Now, state police told her they couldn't do it. They didn't have the manpower. And she calls back several times asking the state police to send somebody out there to set at the house, figuring he's going to come back. State police kept telling her we ain't got the manpower, and that they don't have the ability to call anyone in that's off duty to work, which I find rather shocking. But that's what they said. Now, little Brittany, she calls the state police again, and none of the investigators handling her case are around. So whoever she's talking to on the phone, she tells them, well, my family and I, we're coming down. We're going to hang out at the police station in the parking lot where we'll be safe. Whoever she talked to told her that, it could be very dangerous. Don't leave your house. They told her if anything happens, just call us back. Now, between 4 and 4:40 a.m. on July 17th, a fella, his house gets broken into. He gets assaulted by the suspect. Now, that's there in Silver Ridge, Maine. That's only about 6 miles and 12 minutes away from little Brittany's parents' house in Benedicta. Now, the suspect worked the victim over with a hammer, took his truck and 2 guns. Now, the suspect gets over there to the mama's house, fires around, wounds little Brittany. He then kicks the door in, goes in, and shoots the real boyfriend about 8 times. Now, little Brittany, she runs to the bathroom, and her mama runs to the bathroom, and the mama helps her get out through the window. And then the suspect shoots the mama in the shoulder, doesn't kill her. Now, the suspect, he has to reload his pistol, and he leaves the house. Well, our little Brittany, she jumps into the back of a pickup truck that's driving by real slow on the road. Well, then the suspect, he jumps in the back of the truck too. And the driver, he kind of pulls over to see what in the world is going on in the back of his truck. Suspect shoots him multiple times. Doesn't kill him. Then the suspect and little Brittany, they get out of the truck. Now, they get back into the truck that the suspect had stolen from that fella earlier, where he beat him with the hammer. So now he's got little Brittany with him. And the police, they finally see him down in Millinoka City there. Police see him and they get chasing him about 5:50 in the morning. Now they're chasing him. They chase him a pretty good ways. Now he's firing at the police officers and he's firing at oncoming traffic. And they finally lose sight of him up there on Route 157 near the town of Crystal. So now the suspect's figuring he's got to get him another vehicle. So he stops off at a woodlot. The big trucks bring in the trees and drop them off. And pick them up, I reckon. Well, anyways, he pulls in there and there's two fellas standing there. They had just dropped off a load of wood. And them two fellas are sitting there and he comes up to them. He asks for a cigarette and a phone. And he aimed that revolver at him, at that first man. The fella's hollering no, and he tries to run away, and the suspect shoots him, kills him. Other man, he turns and runs, and the suspect shoots him. But he survives. Now, he's still got his little girlfriend with him, Brittany, or whatever she is, the victim. So now, they're in this truck. I'm talking about it's one of those trucks you haul logs on. I don't know if he unhitched the trailer or if the trailer went with it. But in any event, he heads back up in the north, and the police, they recover that 2010 purple Peterbilt truck in Haynesville. Now finally, one of the uncles of the suspect, he calls the police and says, he's over here. Suspect is, you can come get him. So the police go over there and they arrest him. July 2017, suspect pleads guilty to 2 murders and the shooting of 3 more victims, and then the hammer attack on that other fella. Now the judge, she gives him 2 life sentences. Now in the state of Maine, a life sentence means no parole. And as far as I know, he's still in the pokey to this day. And that's certainly where he needs to be. But I'll tell you what, that little Brittany, I don't know about her now. She sure did get a bunch of mess started.